to say popo to say zazo to
I'm born into an Egba, Ogun State, Abeokuta musical family, the Olumide family. It's the heartbeat, therefore, of all of us as the Olumide family is one that has revolved around music, and we've grown with music all our years. I grew up the daughter of now late Admiral Femi Olumide, and he was the first indigenous officer in charge of the Naval Dockyard, which was right next door to NTA in VI at Wilmot Point. And I grew up with bar beat shows. Uncle Atalade, when they were done with bar beat show, the recording on Saturday, they would move to our home and they would have the after events, after show. So I grew up with all of that. The celebration of jazz was also something my father was very much into. And many nights when we would come home from work, he would meet me curled up in his chair waiting for him, and the first thing I would hear would be, he'd have these big bass headphones just placed on my little head at the age of 7, and I'll just be hearing Nina Simone, Ella Fitzgerald, and yeah, so for me, jazz, music, all of these are part of my heritage. And so as Dayo, I'm very musical.
You know what? There is so much more than all if you simply pay attention to more. Something's working in the sound. Something heard of you.
Why jazz? Why did you choose jazz? And I tell them, hey, I didn't choose jazz. Jazz chose me.
Jazz in Nigeria started from when the people called Creoles, the Saros, you know, people from Sierra Leone, after abolishment of slave trade, when they decided to come back to Nigeria, one thing they brought with them is jazz. And then today, jazz has given birth to a lot of other genres of music. So jazz was brought to us. And then one of the foundation of jazz in Nigeria is actually not even a Nigerian, is E.T. Mensah of Ghana. He had a big band, and then many of our composers and artists, they followed that trend. So the first set of jazz composers are probably Bobby Benson.
You know they say plenty husband is too much. Plenty driver with no labor. If you must go, nobody can. If you marry taxi driver, I don't care. If you marry taxi driver.
He wrote a lot of big band jazz, and then they were all influenced by big band of Benny Goodman, and then you know many of them were influenced. And then come Fela Ransom Kuti. He wasn't a Nicola Kuti then, it was Ransom Kuti. He started hosting a show on Radio Nigeria, a show on jazz music. But Fela was not someone who you would tie down to just a jazz show. He wanted more. He wanted to do more than just hosting jazz music. So he started the first basic, unique jazz band, which is called Fela Ransom Kuti and the Jazz Quintet.
If you call a woman Africa woman, she no go green. Abi, she go say Abi lady. Fela in singing that brought us to our own place of recognizing our true identity.
in the early years, what we had was people trying to sound like the American jazz progenitors. People were trying to sound like the big bands, New Orleans jazz and all this. But at a certain period, the issue of identity came in. You know, there is no way you play music and then the audience wants to receive it also as a say. We are Africans, we are Nigerians, and then we needed to, I think Fela did a lot of work in this aspect. At the time when Fela's revival started, everything changed. So although, yeah, he was still playing jazz, but then he started playing highlife jazz, and it brought a lot of African elements into it. So other artists and composers took a clue from Fela's music, and then we started doing African things. We started putting African idioms, African culture into jazz. And so the jazz you listen to in this part of the world is actually different from what you will listen to in America or anywhere else, because our culture is now mixed with our kind of jazz. The likes of Yinka, Davies, Ego, Mike Aremu, and then, Lagbaja, they are unique, they produce unique sounds. It's a lot of African elements in their jazz music.
I didn't set out to be a singer. I wanted to be an actor, a fine artist, an agriculturist. So singing to the back burner. But I started acting, building my craft from 16, 17. My first impression was First Act 77. Made a strong impression, but I still didn't get it until one fine day I found out that the singers outside the country gave expression to words. Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, and Billie Holiday. They painted a picture for me. Just close your eyes and you can see everything they're singing about.
I'm looking for something soothing. I mean, that's what jazz does, It relaxes you, it serenades you. So here to have a beautiful time. And of course, with 2020, and now we're here. I mean, it's something to be thankful for. And why not jazz it up?
I love talking about life and the beauty that we create every day when we go out, when we come in. When we greet our fathers and mothers on the streets, cultural exchange. Really and truly, it's all about us as a people, our communal living. I miss it.
Wow.
Splendid.
Wow. It was amazing. I think jazz is spiritual. Definitely. It kind of just connects with you, right? And when it's Yinka Davies, it takes you somewhere else. She's just an enigma, really.
There's something that speaks to you when you listen to jazz. And with jazz in Nigeria coming from the 60s till date, I think we have come a long way. And this was exceptional this evening.
Every soul alive, every human being alive is unique. You can want to sound like somebody else. I want to sound like Ella Fitzgerald, and yet I sound like me. So the best thing you can do is to give yourself. How to express what I've been trying to say for years. This is exactly what I've been trying to say. Expressing yourself in sound. That is the explanation of jazz. Jazz gives expression to it. The light is staring at me in the face and I'm wondering exactly why the man put it there. That is jazz. You're laughing, exactly. That is jazz. Now putting it into words and making the person listening laugh along with you. That is the explanation and the expression passed on to the other.
You look so beautiful tonight.
We have a sister symbiosis. The two of us, we've just connected over the years. And the jazz in us is like a 5 and 6 heartbeat. If she does something, I respond. I do something, she resonates. And Yinka Davies, just 2 months ago, she lost her son. And she's translated her pathos into a place of performance. So you don't feel her pain. We're able to embrace her in this. And it's not about grief, but it's about a growth. I've seen her just emerge. And for me, she is the Africa culture ambassador of jazz. I always call her the first lady of jazz. And she corrected me the other day. She said, no, I'm not. Auntie Frank Kuboye is. And I thought that was so honoring. And that's just Yinka. She's just basic, real. She takes what is dialectical from our tribal Yoruba ethos. But Yinka can do Chinese, Japanese, French, German. I mean, she's replete with so much spontaneous ingenuity with her songs and then with her persona. She's just so real. So for me, I celebrate her. Who else? Uncle Tunde Kuboye of Jazz 38. Amazingly, he impacted my life in 2 very unique ways. He used to coordinate school debates. And that's where I was trained up as a debater from Queen's College. And he was the one that told me that, little girl, nobody's expecting you to fail or to mess up. That freed me. But there was something much more than that. The jazz grew with me. And then later on in life, coming into Jazz 38 to do some performances and things like that. The jazz there and his mentoring with Auntie Fran just did so much to bring me into a place of connecting with my inner voice and my soul. Today at 74, I celebrate Jazz 38 as part of the history. Uncle Wale Boknov, R.I.P. blessed memory, he set up the Nigerian Naval Band. My dad brought him into the Navy. They set up the band together. They were all into the jazz. We used to have those events. So that's Uncle Wale Bokno of blessed memory. Kunle Bolarinwa, R.I.P. also of Cave Ibadan. Those of us who were in Ibadan in those days, University of Ibadan, and all the big boys and big girls. Then, you want to mention Cave. Everybody like, come on, we're just like a tribe. And it was all the jazz and everybody just coming together. So when you mentioned these Steve Rhodes voices, trained me, Bongo Zikwe, Kokro at Dawn, Bobby Benson, it just doesn't stop.
At Alade, who had the preachers, and then from there we started having so many other musicians come up. Elder Steve Rhodes of blessed memory, Fela Shuwande, they had this jazz band and dance group. And then, so fast forward to today, what do we have today? We have a lot of intelligent, young, brilliant artists.
Now that's the idea, trying to make the audience feel the music with me. So I got to a point where I realized that audience should also be part of the process. So at times I come on stage with the aim of bringing my audience into the music. At times I make the music there and there on stage. So I get them to say something and we start making music on stage. So I'm enjoying this as much as the audience are enjoying the music too. Trying to introduce this kind of style to a new audience, it's not that easy, but we love jazz. It's been a journey. It's been a journey of over a decade. Listening, working hard at this. Then at some point, I realized that I know so much rather. And bringing it out in a way that is different was key. So a little try and error here and there, Okay, can I do something that no one does? Is it possible? Can I create an experiential music? Can I create experiment with music? So those were the questions I started asking myself, and it brought me to this part of my music, of my jazz music. So now I'm thinking, okay, the next show, how can I create an experience that they won't forget?
You can't take away the essence of jazz as it relates to one spirituality. It gives you that opportunity to truly think deep. Yeah, because that's one music, that a genre that can take you to across the globe and back and still feel good with yourself. They say when you're moody, you listen to jazz, not necessarily so, but when you really want to be alive, you listen to jazz.
I love jazz. I listen to Manu Dibango, listen to all those great guys, and then I say to myself that, look, if there is anything that Africa can produce that will be unique to Africa, it is African jazz. I started playing from a very young age. I could remember that at the age of 7, I performed at the ECOWAS conference here in Abuja, Sheraton Hotel. That was the era of General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, when many head of states came to Nigeria for the ECOWAS conference. I went to schools that have history of music, like CMS Grammar School has history of great people like Fela Shuwande. In fact, there is no way you mention jazz music and then Fela Shuwande won't come in. At Alade, these people who really, they were jazz. They attended the same school. So there is history behind my evolution. I also studied music, studied at the Muson, then went to University of Winneba. to do classical music, and then I delved into African music. The experience for me is all-encompassing. It goes beyond the music. What do they see? What do they feel? You get it? So the idea of experience for me is to evoke different emotions. I want people I set the mood for people to say, wow, okay, this is it.
He's taken music and turned it into a tapestry of technology, of the message, of what is indigenous to us, but clearly what is still a global product that anywhere in the world you can embrace it, make it part of a Nigeria mandate to impact the world.
You see, I was there when jazz first stepped her beautiful feet on this Nigerian soil. I was there when E.T. Mensah launched his band in 1961. And when the expatriates were coming back in the 40s, I was there. I remember it vividly as we waited by the shores, waiting to welcome them. And what did they come with? Gold? Nah. They came with jazz.
Playing this character is like a lesson in the history of jazz for me, because there's so many things about jazz I didn't know that, playing this character made me understand, and particularly jazz when it comes to Nigeria, what jazz was, how it grew in Nigeria. Today is a living proof that jazz is still very much alive and, present with us.
And then I went up north to Kaduna, and then I experienced the powerful voice of Bala Miller. And then down North Central, I fell in love with the voice of Bongo's Ikwe. Lord.
Merging the whole conversation of music, history, and education really is the impetus for this platform and this expression of this genre, not just as music or the sound of music, but the story of music in the Nigerian genre of jazz.
When a lady kept crying throughout the show, and I couldn't but go backstage to go and apologize to the crowd and beg them, give me some few minutes, I shall be right back. She just couldn't stop crying. That was one of the very few experiences in my young life that you're watching a show and a lady just kept crying. She's happy, but she just kept crying. Now, I can't. It's the proverbial Jesus leaving the 99 sheep and going after one. That's exactly how it felt. I had to, I'll just say, I will be right back after this time out. I'll go back and I'll go and sit with her. I'm sure. Okay. I hope they're fine. She'll cry again. Sir, you can't buy that with money. You can't pay for such an experience.
I cannot be who I am without the music.
Music has been life to me.
It is an explanation of a movement, of a journey.